The secret to Starbucks success isn't the sauce. It's the people and how we treated each other. That's the secret.
All right, welcome back to the Witz Podcast. Today, once again, as usual, we have a wicked awesome guest. We have Howard Behar. Howard's career in business spans over 50 years, all in consumer-oriented business, covering several industries. As the founding president of Starbucks International during his tenure, he participated in the growth of the company from 28 stores to over 15,000 stores spanning over 5 continents, and he served on the Starbucks board of directors for the last 12 years before retiring. Mr. Behar is still active with nonprofit commitments such as University of Washington Foundation, UW Business School of Mentoring Program as trustee for the Sherry and Les Biller Family Foundation. Howard is committed to the development and education of our future leaders and has been a longtime advocate of the servant leadership model, which is one of the oldest and one of the best. Howard, welcome to the show. So let's start there, man. I mean, let's start with, what is servant leadership to you? I mean, there are 11 core aspects that go into it, but break it down for us.
Well, there's primarily one thing. You serve your people to help them achieve what they want out of their lives, help to make them better human beings, to help make them better professionals, better family members, and they will serve you. Mm-hmm. But you have to serve them first. And that means that you trust them, but you give them trust before they have to give you trust. You give them love before they give you love. It is putting yourself last in the journey and putting your people first. And that's what it's about.
It's kind of like parenting.
Yeah. Right. Well, some parenting, yeah.
Right.
But it's primarily what it's about. And that's how great organizations work. You name the industry, you name the nonprofits, whatever, the military are great servant leaders for the most part.
Yeah. People have the wrong idea about militant leadership. I mean, traditionally, it did come from this place of sort of directness and authoritarian. But if you look at leadership taught in military today, it's a lot around servant leadership.
Yeah, they're always out in front. Read their leadership books, they're always ahead. Right. And, today's world, the business world, there certainly is a movement, a significant movement towards servant leadership or conscious capitalism, which is another form that started by John Mackey and significant other types of organizations that are heading that way. And there's a reason, because the internet has made people more accountable. You can't hide.
Right.
Whatever you say, whatever you do, it's there for posterity. You tweet, I have to remind myself, sometimes I get mad, particularly at political stuff, and I probably tweet stuff I shouldn't, but it's there for posterity. Right. And you can't hide. And look what's happened. I think one of the most interesting thing that's happened because of the internet is look what happened at Uber. Mm-hmm. The guy that founds Uber is a complete, and jerk. And he finally gets taken down because the internet went wild with the people that are working at Uber and telling everybody what was going on, and the board finally had to act.
Right. So what you think there's a theme there, which is absence of servant leadership and pure capitalism, pure narcissism, pure selfishness.
Yeah. And we're held accountable.
Right.
Servant leadership is about performance, as much as it is about anything else. I mean, you have to do what you say you're going to do. That's part of servant leadership. And not just on the leader's part, but on everybody, because everybody's a servant leader. In a servant-led organization, everybody is a servant leader. There's not one servant leader.
Right. Let's go back. How did you come across servant leadership? Were you ever introduced to Robert K. Greenleaf's stuff, or?
50 years ago, I got a little pamphlet. It was called The Leader as Servant, written by Robert Greenleaf. It was his first document that he wrote. And a guy that I reported to gave me that pamphlet, and I was 25 years old, and I'm 76 now. And that started my journey. I related to it right away. I had the bent of it, but I didn't understand what it meant. I couldn't teach it. I was an unconscious competent. No words for it. I just was being Howard, so to speak. And then all of a sudden I get these words for it and more instruction about it and more more views about it. And then I just became a student of it. And that's where I decided I better learn to lead myself first.
Would you say this was a foundation to your professional success, servant leadership?
No question. No question.
Yeah.
Absolutely it was. It was, I grew up with a dad. My dad had a small mom and pop grocery store. And it was a neighborhood grocery store. So in those days, he had charge accounts for all the people. And I watched what he did. They weren't just his customers, they were his neighbors and his friends. And
Right.
he treated them that way. He was my original teacher of servant leadership. Of course, we didn't call it that. And so that started me off at a very early age.
Well, your dad came from the silent generation, which is also known as the greatest generation or the selfless generation, where you actually, when you lived and you did business in the community, it was about connection, community, neighborhood, support, giving, service, et cetera, et cetera. I used to do a lot of work around generations. And one of the things I tell stories around is like, yeah, back in certain communities, the butcher, the grocer, the mom and pop, there was a community around it, right? I mean, trust was at the core of everything.
Well, trust is everything. Trust is what makes the world work.
Right.
Without trust, it doesn't work. It's what makes families work at its core. It's right. Trust in oneself is what make you work, right? And then it goes to families. If there's no trust in a marriage, there's no marriage.
Right. What do you think it takes to trust corporately? I mean, I think, in the world that we live, everyone is throwing out the word trust as a corporate thing, right? Like, oh, we need to build trust within our culture. And it's like this necessary thing that they need to do. What does it really take to have a trusting culture?
Almost zero gap between what you say and what you do.
Right. Right. The reliability factor.
It's all about what you do, right? But and formed by what you say.
Right. That you'll appreciate. There's that old saying, right? It's not what you do. It's not what you say. It's what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I think that's been lost. Thinking about in today's world, I mean, what do you think is missing with people today? When it comes, and just I'll preface that a little bit. In the training coaching world, you're hearing a lot of things like authentic leadership now, transparent leadership. And I'm looking at these people going, are you kidding me? You make buzzwords out of these things and you destroy the essence of what it is. So what do you think is missing in today's world with people when it comes down to this stuff? What do you think we need to do to get back to we? Is it possible? How long do you think it's going to take? I mean, this might be a big philosophical question, but fuck, man, people are mess. Culture is mess. Society is messed. Yeah, people are running around selfishly. Leaders are taking on roles of managers and supervisors again. I mean, It's like we've almost swung back to the 80s where like I have a white collar, you have a blue collar, white hat, blue hat. You're going to do what I tell you to do.
It's not about business, first of all. That we got to get over that. Business is a reflection of the society as a whole. It's just like governments are. It's about us. It's about who are we. This view that our children we have to do all the things to help our children get ahead and, manipulate the college entrance systems, manipulate tests, right? All that kind of stuff because we want them to go to wherever it is, Stanford or USC or, whatever. And that's about me. And every time that happens, it breaks down a little more trust. Mm-hmm. One of the problems with the internet, the opposite side of the internet, is that it has a tendency to break down trust.
Yeah, because everything's so false.
It's too easy to communicate. It's too easy to be angry over the internet. You don't have to come face to face with that person, and then you see it foment itself in these angry people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to break the cycle. I think expectations.
Changing our expectations, managing our expectations.
Changing our expectations of that's okay, and that's a problem right now, and it seems to be all okay right now.
Mm-hmm. Everything's given a pass, right?
Everything is given a pass. What you say is given a pass at all levels. By the way, mm-hmm. There's less and less accountability. Right? People don't want to be held accountable. I have what I call my 6 Ps, and the 5th P is performance.
Mm-hmm. Well, just walk us through the 6 Ps. What are the 6 Ps?
The 6 P's is, this is how I do everything in my life. The
Okay.
first P is purpose. Everything in my life has to have a purpose greater than myself.
Cool.
It has to be bigger than me, and it has to drive me, gets me up in the morning. The second P is passion. If I'm going to do something bigger than myself, then I darn well better be passionate about it. Scream it from the highest mountaintops.
Amazing.
Third P is persistence. Nothing happens without persistence. If there's one particular thing that all entrepreneurs that I've ever met have in common, that's the word persistence. They don't know from no. No is the beginning of the conversation for them. And then patience, which you'd think is opposite of persistence. It's not. It's patience. It's learning to have patience with yourself. Not everything comes in the time frame that you want it. Not every person performs it with the speed that you want it. So you got to have patience with yourself, and you got to have patience with your people. The fifth P is performance. Performance matters. When you make a commitment to do something, if you get married and you say, I'm going to have a monogamous relationship, you better darn well do it. That's performance. If your job is to take out the garbage at home, that's performance. If you say to your son or daughter, I'm going to come to see your soccer game tonight or this afternoon, you better show up.
Mm-hmm. Do right? What you say.
If you say to your boss, I'll get those numbers in on time, that's performance. Now, it doesn't mean we all do 100%, but if we're going to miss something, then we darn well better be early in telling people that we're going to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final P, everything we do in life is about people. It's all about serving people. There is no job that anybody could have, none, zero, that isn't about serving people. If you're the widget maker making widgets in a manufacturing plant, the widget goes into a printing press. The printing press gets sold to a publisher who produces a magazine or a newspaper to inform or entertain, right? The widget maker is serving people.
Right.
It's up to us to build that and find that connection, because that's what keeps us going. People don't burn out, they bore out. You know, they bore out because they lose a connection between why they're here and what they're doing.
So let me just repeat that. People don't burn out, they bore out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They get bored, they lose touch.
Everybody gets tired. But if you're constantly attached to your greater purpose in life, you never lose energy. You get tired. Yeah, absolutely. You may take a rest, but you never, right? You're with it all the time.
Man, first, I love your 6 Ps. I think they represent everything that we need to have for success, not just professionally, but personally. And what was really amazing and what I just heard you talk about was this wasn't just, as you said, for a 9-to-5 sort of square corporate thing. This is something the way you live. I love the analogy you gave of, performance in marriage, not in the way we're thinking, but, if you're married, your job is to sort of, show up as spouse and sort of be monogamous and put effort into the relationship, or as parent, your job is to show up at the soccer game. Awesome. Because people don't look at it that way. They look at this as a separation. And I've been saying to people forever, I'm like, there is no separation between your professional life and your personal life. You're the same human being. You're the same person. You've got the same emotions. And we have to start to recognize that the values and the way we behave at home should be the way we behave at the office. And in some cases, the way we behave in our corporate lives is sometimes better than the way we behave at home emotionally.
You hit it right on. I'm always amazed. I watch people at work who they're the greatest people, and people love them, and they go home and they're complete jerks.
Right.
They're the opposite.
Right.
And there's no question. This is about life. This is about life and how you want to live your life.
So let me ask you some questions right now. So let me go through your 6 Ps. So tell me what your current purpose is. What's your purpose right now?
To nurture and inspire the human spirit every day, beginning with myself first and then for others. Amazing. I'm trying to change how we lead. And I do that by building other people up and talking about what they can be, what their possibilities are, becoming more human.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm passionate about it. I really am, because look, I'm passionate about it for a lot of reasons. The primary reason, because I think it's the right way to live. Mm-hmm. Right? I think it's what really makes the world work and makes our lives work. Mm-hmm. If I'm serving my wife, right? So she's decided when she decided she wanted to go and get her PhD, and then she was quitting work. And at the time, we didn't hardly any money. Early days at Starbucks, and so she wasn't going to be bringing any money in. But we sat down and we worked it out. My job was to serve her in her journey.
Mm-hmm.
Not to tell her no or we can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
but figure out how we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. It's about life.
That's amazing. Can we talk a little bit about Starbucks?
Sure.
I'm just interested. I mean, yeah, we know the story on how you started with Starbucks, but like, how did you start in Starbucks? What was that first conversation like? What were some of the first challenges that you had? I mean, early days, what was it like?
Totally an accident. I had been president of a land development company in the Seattle area,
Yeah.
and got fired from my job basically, and I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And fortunately, I had some money in the bank, and I could take some time. And um, I met this guy, Howard Schultz, who was 10 years younger than I was. I was 44, he was 33, and he had just bought Starbucks a year before.
Right.
And a friend of mine who was one of the founders of Costco, a guy named Jeff Brotman, was sitting on the board of this little tiny coffee company. And I'd been a customer of Starbucks for years. Not buying cups of coffee because they didn't sell cups of coffee.
Yeah, they sold beans and stuff.
By the beans, by the pound. And so
Yeah.
I'd always bought beans at Starbucks. And so he introduced me to Howard, and Howard was looking for a VP of operations. But I wanted to buy a company. I was through working in corporate life. And so we sat down, and Howard had this whole list of criteria. And the first thing, do you have a college degree? I don't have a college degree. Second thing is, do you have food service experience background? I had that. Finally, we got to number 10. Can you breathe? Yes, I can breathe. But we shook hands and said, not for you, not for me.
Right.
And a year had passed, and I finally found a company to buy. And it was the franchise for Oregon, Washington, British Columbia of a company called Hickory Farms. Remember Hickory Farms?
Yep,
They're
sure
a
do.
and cheese business, kind of, for the holidays.
Right.
So I didn't know anything about franchising, but my brother-in-law knew somebody, and it happened to be one of Howard's first investors, and he was helping Howard, and he was at the Seattle roasting plant for Starbucks, a little tiny place. And so he said, let's go talk to this guy. His name was Jack Rogers, and my brother-in-law was going to loan me some money. So we sat down with Jack, and I was pitching my heart out to Jack of why I wanted to do this. And Jack just looked at me and said, what do you want to do that for? We need a guy like you right here at Starbucks. And I told him the story of how I'd been through all that. He said, well, we still haven't filled that position, and you're the right guy. And so my brother-in-law, a sigh of relief, he could have heard all the way from Seattle to California. He wouldn't have had to loan me any money if I got a job,
So he was pushing it.
Yeah. So I went through the interview process again, and finally Howard and I met up again. I said, Howard, before you decide that you want me, or before I decide that I want to come here, assuming you want me, can I work in the company for a week for free? I just want to, you don't pay me anything, nothing, I want to work in the plant for a couple of days. I want to work in the stores for 3 days. I want to work on the trucks delivering coffee. So I did that. And I came out of that first week saying this was right for me. And Howard fortunately extended me an invitation to join Starbucks, and that began my journey. And almost from the get-go, I thought it was about coffee. It wasn't about coffee. It was about people.
Mm.
I smelled it, like you smell the coffee. I smelled what it was about. Now, Starbucks was still believing it was about coffee, and Howard Schultz was still believing it was about coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And our biggest battles were over that. It wasn't that he didn't care about people. He did, but he, it's like all entrepreneurs. They think their product or their service, that's what it's all about. It's the truth is, the minute you hire one person in your company, somebody to help you, or you have, even if you don't hire them, you hire a consultant or whatever, it becomes about people. And so I coined that. I was having trouble getting people to get it, to understand it. And I was selling my heart out with people, and trying to model it and all that stuff. And finally I figured, I love quotes. I had hundreds of quotes in my office wall, and I was good at making up things. And I believe that words matter. So I said, I started saying to people, we're not in the coffee business serving people, but we're in the people business serving coffee. That tied the two together. And amazingly enough, you'd say, oh, that's just, what are you talking about? That's me. Today, 30 some years later, they still use it. They still live by it.
Wow. So in a lot of cases, people move to leave legacy, right? Or people want to leave a legacy. By definition, what you just described is the ultimate legacy, which is the model of behavior continued.
Yeah. And right? I wasn't trying to leave a legacy. I was trying to get people to understand.
That's the whole point. You weren't trying to leave a legacy. The greatest leaders in history have been able to move people, and you move people with emotion. And when people give you that emotion, as you said, there's trust there. There's something magical. So, but you said something. So they were the biggest battles that you and Howard had over sort of this thing. How long did it take? I mean, do you remember the defining moment?
It was a significant amount of time. It took a few years.
Right. And do you think Starbucks would be as successful as it is today if that wasn't?
No, I got the ball rolling, and certainly the people that came into it, they started to get it and saying, yes, okay, I get that, and they attached. Look, the secret to Starbucks success isn't the sauce. It's the people and how we treated each other. That's the secret. We didn't have great training programs. That wasn't what we did. We had one program we called Star Skills. You know what that was about? That was about how you learn to live and work with other people.
Amazing. Howard, you are the definition of what leadership is. And I mean, your story is a story of the importance of working and supporting the people. And the proof is the success of Starbucks.
Starbucks had ups and downs. There's no straight. Everybody looks at Starbucks and says, wow, look at that. It just went right to the top. It didn't. We were losing money when I got there, and we made lots of mistakes along the way. And what saved us was the people side. We always could come back. We held ourselves accountable. We wanted our people to hold leadership accountable. We had no company cars. We had no executive health clubs. We didn't have any of that stuff. We didn't have a company airplane until Howard finally, a company got so huge he wanted one. And I fought it. I said, you never meet a customer on a private jet.
Right.
But I understand now they need it because they're diverse all over the U.S. It saves them a lot.
Today's a different story.
It's about time. It's how we do things in life. People have to identify what their core values are and then determine how those core values inform their decisions and actions in life. Organizations need to do exactly the same thing. They have to be cognizant of their core values, and those core values represent them, and then that's how they live. And they should have mechanisms for holding themselves accountable.
They should.
I'll show you something here. Let's see. I've got it sitting here. I say my little pin. I have it pinned on my wall. This is Howard in 50 words or less. I've had this for almost 50 years, for 45 years, 46 years.
Can you read it for us? Because anyone listening?
It's my personal mission statement, which is to live my life every day, nurturing and inspiring the human spirit of myself and others. Then my core values: honesty, fairness, respect for self and others, responsibility, integrity, trust in self and others, caring, and love. Wow. And each one of those means something to me. And then how I do everything, which is my 6 Ps. And then I have a 5-year plan.
What's your 5-year plan?
My 5-year plan sets out all my goals and what I want to accomplish over the next 5 years. I break it down in 1, 3, and 5 years. And they're about spirituality. They're about personal growth. They're about economic well-being. They're about family. They're about marriage, all the different headings that you might have in your life. And my wife and I do that work together because she has hers. And that's when we sort out our differences.
Right. And that's where you see alignment as well.
Yeah, we see alignment. Yeah, we have alignment. And so, that's how I try to live my life. Am I perfect at it? No.
Well, I talk a lot about practice, right? Which is at the end of the day, as long as we're practicing, let's go to your 6 Ps, patience, performance. I think in some of your story that you described, that's, there was a lot of patience that you had to put into, right? Yourself and others. So let me ask you this: within your own family, between your kids and your grandkids, do you see these values, the 6 Ps, the servant leadership? Do you see it within your family? Like, are your kids living it?
I do. I see it. I do. I see it in both of my kids. And they're two. They each, when Lynn and I got married, we each had a child from our first marriage.
Yeah.
Our son Scott was 6, and my daughter was 2. And when we got married, and they are servant leaders, both of them. I don't know that they would use those words, but that's how I watch them, and that's how they act. And that's how they were treated.
You started the conversation out today saying that you have to give trust before asking or earning trust. It's so funny, the things you share, and often what I talk about in training and coaching, as much as it's based on things like, some deep concepts and psychology and thought leadership. And at the end of the day, it's everything I teach is common sense. How do you develop trust, right? Show up. Reliability is what you were talking about, showing up, making sure that you actually show up. And intimacy is that social connection.
Yeah.
I often talk about this, people that I work with, I don't want to work with people that I don't like, that I don't want to be in a community with. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business, but at the end of the day, it's a community. We need to
Yeah.
be with each other. Howard, I want to be respectful of time, but you are an amazing human being. You are the definition of what my company represents, which is making humans better humans. You're still doing it. If I could quote you at 76 years old, I think you still got a long journey ahead to keep this message going. And I'd love to have you back or have you on for another part of the show at some point, and we can talk a little deeper about some things. But thank you for taking the time to talk, man.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate letting me live out my mission today.
Yeah, that's amazing. So if you're up for it, let's definitely do this again.
All right.
And Howard, if someone wants to get in touch with you, if
My email is hb@howardbehar.com, and my cell phone number is 206-972-7776. I'm sometimes slow to respond, but I get back to everybody.
That's amazing. And you know what? I appreciate you getting back to me. And I spoke to someone the other day, and I'll just share this final thought with you. They said one of the most important things you can do is call everyone back.
Absolutely.
And I was like, that was also impressive. All right, Howard, we will follow up with you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Once again, if there's anything I can do for you, you let me know.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks very much for having me. Bye-bye.
All right. If you liked that episode, which I hope you did, because that was the one and only Howard Behar, the legend, the author, the man himself. Don't forget to click subscribe. Don't forget to click like. Don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to do all that stuff. And we will see you next time. Hey, I'm Greg Witz. Thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. So I'd highly suggest that you click this video over here. And don't forget to subscribe and share.